We're getting close to the truth, everyone. Hey guys, it's Mr. J again, and I've been meaning to give my thoughts after I finally saw the leaked footage of George Floyd's arrest. Now, if you haven't seen the video yourself, I suggest you go watch that first. I'll leave a link to it down in the description below. Now, first, I want to apologize for some things that I didn't know about the arrest when I made my previous videos. For one, the infamous knee technique that Officer Derek Chauvin used on Mr. Floyd was still legal at the time it was used here. Now, it was removed from the training immediately after this incident, but at the time, Officer Chauvin and his fellow officers were following protocol at the time. Now, as we see in the video, George Floyd was being uncooperative. He was resisting arrest. He wasn't being violent, but he was very erratic. Now, the officers were trying to be careful with the situation. They were talking to him, trying to calm him down, and trying to make sure that he wasn't going to run off or even try to pull out a weapon on them. They had enough trouble just getting him out of the car so that they could handcuff him. After that, they had to question someone who was riding with Mr. Floyd. They had to make sure that this person wasn't going to hide evidence or anything like that. Now, there was also a woman who was present, and she seemed to indicate that Mr. Floyd was known for having these episodes because he wasn't in his right mind. Now, this is just speculation, but she never mentioned any drugs, so it could be that she was trying to mislead the officers. But again, we don't know that for a fact. Now, it's clear from Mr. Floyd's behavior that he was high on something. We also know that he had traces of fentanyl, methamphetamines, and even a bit of cannabis in his system when he died. We also know that he was diagnosed with heart disease, hypertension, and even a form of sickle cell disease. Going a bit further, we see that when the officers were trying to get Mr. Floyd into the police car, he was still being non-compliant, struggling, and was still very erratic. He was making excuse after excuse, saying, "I'm not that type of guy." Eventually, when the officers were finally starting to get him into the car, Floyd started saying, "I can't breathe," and that he'd rather be lying on the ground. Now, in order to make things easier, the officers complied and laid him on the ground. Now, because of how much Mr. Floyd was struggling and thrashing, this caused Officer Chauvin to put the knee on the man's neck. Now again, this was still part of the training at the time. Officer Chauvin didn't just do it because he's a racist or anything like that. The same goes for his fellow officers. Since then, all of the officers have been fired and charged, with Officer Chauvin facing charges of second-degree murder. Now, as to whether or not they can make those charges stick, I can't say. I'm not a lawyer. But what I can say is that it's good to get a glimpse into the other side of the story. A good number of media outlets and so-called activist groups want to push the rhetoric that cops are out to kill black people, that they need to be abolished in order to stop these deaths. Let me tell you that there is a way to stop these deaths, and it isn't by abolishing the police. Now, do I think that the police don't need reforms or anything like that? No, I think there's enough room for actual reforms to take place when not done because of social pressure from emboldened activists pushing to get their agendas accomplished. Additionally, I think there should be more focus on helping the individual before they go out and commit crimes, instead of while they're doing it, like these activists advocate for. George Floyd was an addict, and it was killing him. Now, if you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, I'll leave a link in the description for a number to call if you want to get help. Until then, I hope you all stay safe and take care of each other. I know these aren't easy times, but we'll get through it if we keep the discussion going and if we can keep working together. I know that last part sounds corny, but it's the truth. Take care, everyone, and God bless.